Construction for your. And they have a truly customizable way to build, so your client's dream home can come to life. They also recently had a video go viral on TikTok, so they are TikTok famous. So we'll let them take it over. We're gonna record. If you have questions, just let them know. But thank you all for being here today. So take it over. I'm gonna hit record.
Welcome, everybody.
Adrian already did it.
Oh, she did.
Co-owner, Tru Construction, that's my business partner, Ted Pavlik. Feel free throughout the course of this presentation, ask questions, raise your hand, interrupt me. This is more of a dialogue than anything. I think what I'd do is I want to do a back step on contractors. I want to hear all of the negative stuff that you guys have had personally experienced or have heard, any horror stories, any negatives from your perspective, get all that negative energy out on Ted and I in terms of what it is. And so just speak out in terms of anything that we've had that's negative as it relates to a contractor or as it relates to a building process. There you go.
Contracts.
Contracts, the
Yeah.
actual contract itself, the document.
Yeah.
Okay. One. Contract. All right, what else?
Dependability, finishing and scheduled.
Dependability, good. And schedule, I heard, right? And is that in terms of not managing clients' expectations appropriately in terms of schedule?
No, it's not finishing the job as they projected.
Okay, so saying one thing and doing another, right? Okay. What else we got?
Quality of work.
Yeah, quality.
Not returning phone calls.
Yeah.
Better communication.
Absolutely. And I can't write that bad. Alright, last communication. I heard what else?
Quality.
Quality. We call that QC,
Financing,
financing, elaborate.
just making sure that your client, understands their finance options for a new build, because they tend to be different than resale.
Jumbo loan versus traditional versus VA versus
New construction,
new
like
construction.
if they're making interest only payments until the bill is completed, just depending on.
Gotcha, so structure of the financing and also. I would say like leading into that is managing of expectations, like don't say yes to the upgrades if you know the home isn't going to appraise kind of thing.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
gotcha. Financing consistency. And clarity. What else? We'll get 2 or 3 more.
Wildly different opinions of what custom actually means.
There we go, define custom.
Sounds like Mike has a story.
PTSD action going on.
You can have it custom, it's either A or B.
There you go.
Real custom.
And we'll get into that too, Mike, for on that point. All right, one more.
Chris,
Yes,
draw schedules and allowances.
draw schedules and
And
allowance.
allowance.
Gotcha. Awesome. So I'd say, where we talk about these things, the negatives, just to, I guess, give context in terms of where we're coming from, because we're gonna tell you a little bit about the one true path, just in terms of our process. And then we can have these on the board and we can kind of dovetail that into conversations, or if you've had an experience, we can talk about that as well. But we have draw schedules and allowances as the last time. That's a great list. So. Our main goal today, Ted and I's main goal today is not necessarily education, but it's talking about figuring out a way that we're able to work well together as people. We're all just people. We're not trying to do anything crazy. We're not trying to do anything complicated. We're just trying to build and sell a home. But the more that we're able to be Tru Construction, and Keller Williams and just talk openly about the negatives and positives about the home building process, the better off we're all gonna be in the end. So really, at the end of the day, what we want to try to figure out is how our process works with your customers. This is a home that we're constructing right now, one of our communities in Maury's Orchards, just south of Bowmansdale. We started the job in the end of June, beginning of July 24, and we're delivering it to the customer February 21st. So it is a 7,100 square foot home with a pool, 7.5 acre lot, all custom, 100% custom, flooring, exposed beams, reclaimed barn beam mantles, den, full basement, the whole shooting match. So I say that just because you do have the ability to deliver a home in a timely fashion. So speaking to the schedule, managing expectations, that customer came to us in April and said, hey, we want to be in by Christmas. We can't do that, but we can do February. How does that look? So from the time we started to the time we finished, it's gonna be 7 months to build this house. Wow. So the reason that we're able to do that is we come from the commercial construction industry. So everything is on schedules, everything is on submittals, everything's on the specifications, everything's on the drawing. There's no wiggle room, there's no gray area. We try to bring our commercial mindset to the residential market in our organization and the delivery of our product. So that's what we believe sets us apart. Now, how do we work for you? There's a lot of different things that we can do, but ultimately what we're all trying to do is set our customers' expectations and then manage them appropriately. So if there's ever an instance where you have a piece of ground that you're trying to sell a customer, or you're thinking about saying, hey, my customer has this piece of ground, their budget is $800,000 to build their home. You can call Ted, you can call me, you can say, hey, we have a potential project here. What do you think? We can take a walk. Where's the electric service coming from? Is it an on-lot septic? Has it been perked and probed? Is there a well? Do we need to drill through rock? All these kind of, I guess, unforeseen items that you guys wouldn't know because that's not what you do. That's what we do. We're perfectly open and free to have that level of relationship. If there's something that you guys, if there's a deal that you're trying to get pushed over the finish line, beginning of it, and try to work through that process with you. On-site inspections of trying to figure out, okay, we have a customer that this is their dream home, except they want a sunroom, and they build a sunroom. We don't know because of zoning. We don't know because of how the roof line ties in. How much money is that gonna cost, right? Hey, Chris, what do you think a 20 by 20 sunroom is gonna be? Slab on grade, HVAC, whatever it looks like. It's a very simple conversation with us. That gives you the firepower you need to potentially close the deal for the customer, if that's the linchpin behind their situation. In terms of land development and initial investment discussions, is very similar to the on-site walkthroughs and the pre-lot purchases. We all know about zoning. We all know whether it's residential agriculture, whether it's commercial, but from the perspective of trying to make sure that it works for a customer and where they want to put their home. Sometimes there's wetlands involved. Sometimes there is perk and probe location that the developer put way out in Timbuktu. There's no way you're getting a house the whole way out there. Well, a new perk and probe test is only $350. Go right next to where the customer wants to do the perk and probe and dig another hole and put some water in it. It's not that difficult. But a lot of customers are gonna look at that and say, that perk and probe's the whole way over there. I don't want that lot because I'm gonna have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get that stuff redone. So it's not really a, reinvention of the wheel. It's more clarity and managing and setting expectations. Township ordinances and requirements. We are a full service, one-stop shop. We will do the drawings, we will submit for the permitting, we will do the structural engineering, the MEP engineering, the civil engineering, go to township meetings if necessary, talk to solicitors if necessary. We came from, again, the commercial side of things, and you can only imagine what land development is. I'm trying to build a hospital, we're trying to build a church. But we're talking about building a house, it's the same process, it's the same set of principles, it's the same set of rules. It's just on a much smaller scale. And then it comes down to what Mike was hitting on cost segregation and full customization and design. So if your customer is saying, okay, what is my allowance for cabinets, or what Keith had mentioned? Okay, we're gonna give you a $50,000 allowance for cabinets based on the customer, or a $40,000 allowance based on what it is for the customer. That is going to be sufficient in most cases. We're not gonna put 20 grand in knowing full well that customer can't purchase their cabinets for 20 grand to drive the cost down to get them on the hook. That's not who we are. That's not the way we operate. But we are 100% full custom. You know, Pella windows, if you want Anderson windows, if you want Harvey windows, doesn't matter. Vinyl siding, LP smart siding, standing seam, shingles, doesn't matter. What floor plan do you want? We'll draw it up for you. Now, with all of that customization comes effort, and that's where there's a little bit of qualification necessary from you guys, and because we need to know the information, we need to know the wants and the needs of the customer in order to talk about wherever it is, defining custom to the customer, because that's where, as long as we have the information, we can be dangerous with it. If we don't have the information, then we can put our foot in our mouth really quickly in terms of trying to make recommendations to that customer. So that's what we can do for you guys in terms of trying to make your customers feel very comfortable and very, I guess, at ease in terms of the process.
Can I ask you a question there?
You certainly can.
So looking over that list, so some of those things you would do before we even got to the purchasing stage. So what are costs involved to us or our buyers, or when is there not cost?
I always say if we're going to be putting pen to paper in AutoCAD, or if we're mobilizing a piece of equipment to do a site, do work and approach, that's when the cost comes into play. If you're giving me a phone call and I'm meeting out there, I'm not charging you $150 to go meet with you because I'm trying to get a job out there. You gotta see the forest through the trees, that kind of situation.
Exactly.
We're not nickel and dimers, we don't have contracts as it's related to deposits, so we're not asking for $3,000 of a customer's money that's non-refundable. We do end up asking for, okay, once we get to a part of the proposal where we're defining what your home is or what your budget is, you sign the piece of paper so that we can allocate a slot in our schedule. Then we're beholden to the bank financing. So it's basically in our overhead marketing, whatever you want to chalk it up to, whatever category it is. But does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else on this? So we're gonna kind of go through our one true path and kind of go through a case study of some projects that will allow you guys to know our process, and then it's gonna be kind of an idea or an open discussion based upon, you know, the negative comments that we received as far as the contractor, and then what a real realtor, what a real estate professional can do as part of the team. So our delivery method, we've coined the one true path, and Ted and I have been operating under this since we were in commercial construction in some extent, some regard. It's no different than any other flow chart or any other business model. Project lead, website, phone call, qualify the customer, set up the site visit, figure everything out, estimate, propose, award, construct, close out. So there's no real mystery in the sauce behind it, other than there is a path. There is a process. If you've ever had any dealings with a builder or with a contractor, we have a process. It is organized. It is clear. It costs X amount of dollars for this work. We try to do that because a customer is going to get this from us as part of the proposal. It's just an excerpt from our project summary form. So not getting too in the weeds with it, we have our proposal amount. And then I always list what are the potential cost implications that could occur that make the number go up or make the number go down. So a couple of things like stone veneer. If you want your whole home to be stone veneer, it's going to be more expensive than vinyl siding. If you just want the front elevation, then maybe we figured for less of that. So it's a pluses and minuses that's tracked throughout the course of the project. The payment schedule or draw schedule, in terms of having them understand the financial reality of their project. And obviously, this will get defined by a bank if necessary. We can't tell the bank, this is how much money we want whenever this is happening. Wish we could, but we can't. And then this excerpt gets sent to the customer with each invoice. So if you're getting an addition done on your home, you know that you made a decision, a conscious decision, if you had a site worker septic system that you had on your addition, that you spent $4,175 more than what you originally thought. Throughout the course of whatever decisions that were made, whether they were yours, whether it was jurisdictional, doesn't matter. But then every time you get an invoice, you know where you stand. You're not paying the bill at the end. Whenever a contractor is saying, hey, and oh, by the way, you owe me $45,000 more than what we had figured. This is the first time you're saying something. What motivation do they have to do that? Because if you have the job done, then they have you. In terms of getting, now that it's few and far between, but it does happen. As part of this project summary form, we list everything that needs selected. Literally everything. This list on this project goes down to the floor. Exterior stone veneer. This is what our basis of design is. This is where we're getting it. We need to select it at this point in time. Same color on your treads. Trim casing profile. I'm not gonna go through it, but you get the gist of it in terms of trying to make sure that we're defining and managing expectations. Whenever you make a selection, this cell is highlighted green. Our goal is to make sure that the whole spreadsheet is green before we start. We want to make sure to the best of our ability that all the potential cost implications are realized. That way we can just do our job. And we're not fighting through email, we're not fighting through phone calls and text messages about what the money is or where it's going, because ultimately, the only thing that matters is time and money. That's the bottom line. We provide a schedule for every project. So for a new construction project, that can be 5 to 9 months. In addition, depending upon the complexity of it, it can be 2.5 to 3 months, finished basement, 1.5 months, get your renovation, you get it. But we want to make sure that whenever we talk to a customer and they sign the proposal, that we block out the date of 6/20 to 1/27 for a project manager of ours to manage the project. We're not gonna overbook, we're not gonna overbill, we're not gonna make ourselves busy and then have one guy trying to do 9 different things. Which brings us to level of detail. Does everyone understand from a drawing perspective what level of detail means? Or in terms of a design? I don't know. So we go through a process where we're going through schematic design, design development, and construction documents. This makes the elephant a lot easier to eat for the customer. So you're doing your sketches, you're doing your, your little wire diagrams or whatever you want to call it. And then you basically build up to a level of construction that means something for the contractor and means something more to the customer. So our schematic phase is something just as simple as this. A customer approached us, 7.5 acre lot in Carlisle. This is what we want. We want a house here, we want a pickleball court here, detached garage with a driveway. This is programming in the schematic design phase, just to make sure that the customer is saying, yes, I understand what you're saying. You can proceed to the next step. Let's go through the next gate. I'll draw sketches and send them to customers on a piece of graph paper. Let's just get the point across. Let's make sure that you want your addition to be 20 feet by 24 feet. You want it to be bigger? Do you want it to be smaller? Do you want me to come out with a tape measure in your living room and show you what 24 feet is? We have to get to that point in the process. Then we go through, you can kind of see that this is the America's Best Home Plans or whatever architectural design. That customer wanted that floor plan mirrored for their house. So we're able to do that, and we're able to just kind of get all of the work done as affordably as possible, because we haven't spent $1 yet. And the customer's already understanding what their project may cost and if it's feasible. Then we move into design development. Now, this is where we start to spend the customer's money. We let them know that we're doing that, but we have to spend money to try to get to a point of permit drawings. There are AutoCAD drawings, renderings, working through something as specific as this customer wanted 4 shower heads in their shower with a thermostatic mixing valve that went to the rain shower head, the shower head, the handheld, for this, for that. You don't even know. So to send this to beggars, they're gonna be like, well, what are you talking about? Like, what do you want me to quote? I don't understand what you want, because this is about $7,500 worth of shower parts. So if the customer is saying, this is what I want, then you have to be able to tell them, do you want to spend $7,500? Yes, I do, or no, I don't. And then we move on from there. The same project where we didn't have that figured out in the design. So we figured out, okay, thermostatic mixing valves going in the closet, this goes here, this gets sent to the customer. They say, yep, that's what I want. They say $7,500. That goes in the project summary form, the order goes to beggars, the plumber gets it notified, blah, 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 all on down the line. So that's design development where we do a lot of the work, a lot of just digging in and figuring out the details of a simple bathroom renovation. Or is it as something as complex as a new home construction project? And then we move to construction documents, which are much more detailed, showing elevations, dimensions, type of foundation walls, renderings if necessary to get the customer to understand what they want, colors. Do I like the way the roof lines look? All of that. And then obviously foundation drawings to get the hole dug and get that in the ground. So as far as our process is concerned, does that make sense? I know it's a lot of information, but it's kind of like eating the elephant. You eat it one bite at a time. It's not complicated because at the end of the day, once you have a defined set of documents, once you have a complete project summary form, once a customer has signed off on the schedule, we're good. We've managed their expectations.
So before you start collecting money, which is when you're doing drawings for permits, in that, is that the feasibility portion? Are you able to give a ballpark? And then is it easy to say that's gonna be within, I know there's a lot more than private customers make decisions. But are you typically saying that's within 5-10%, give or take, of what you're gonna spend at the end of the day, or do you steer away from that?
That's a loaded question. I'm gonna try to answer as quickly as I can, not trying to be quick,
Yeah,
not
I
trying to
understand.
be long-winded about it. So for anytime I meet with a customer, before I even leave their house, whether it's an addition, a kitchen, anything like that, I'm giving them how long I think it's gonna take, and I'm giving them my shot from there. And that's based on historical cost information. If I'm coming to your house and you're like, hey, I want an addition put off the back, you and your wife know full well you talked about 100 grand last night, and I say 150, then I'm either the wrong guy or one of us doesn't have the right number. But we're not aligned either way, so it doesn't make sense for me to work for 2 weeks on a proposal package as detailed as that is if we're not aligned from the beginning. So I try to make sure that that is done as soon as possible and that it is done as accurately as possible. I will say that from our perspective, if my number is off and it's a product of a mistake that I made because I underbid the project, we're going to eat what we need to make it right. So if I'm saying, okay, you have medallion cabinets and that medallion cabinet number from the supplier comes in $1,000 more, that's not your fault, that's my fault, because I didn't figure out, you didn't pick more expensive cabinets, you just didn't know. So I can't ask you to pay for that. Now, from a new home construction project, this customer had shingles on the main roof, and these were just standing seam roofs. He said, I want standing seam everywhere. I said, do you understand what that's gonna be? He said, I get it, let me know what the number is. Well, the roofing number went from $35,000 to $87,000. Just product of a customer decision, basically.
And that's where that project summary form comes in there too, because they're able to capture all those.
They made it
numbers.
accurate this way.
So 90% of any time a price goes up, it's more customer driven, either they added something or something like that, and it does go down as well, they may delete something halfway through, be like, you know what, that's crazy, you don't need that, so. That's where it's just that clear communication.
And they may say, it may be, your shower may be the most important thing in the world in your master bedroom. Oh, that shower is $15,000, but I don't care about my master bedroom floor, it just makes it cheap for it. We call Robin Peter, they fall, and we do it through the project. Okay, if we save 5 over here, we put that money in the shower, your net increase is only $5 grand.
Yeah.
Well, we're not getting all of that, just because your shower is more expensive you still get the savings. You have to get the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
And being clear with that, this, from the customer, from the beginning, to say this is on you and the decisions you make are based on your budget, then that's helpful. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Yes.
Chris, do you have your customers sign additional work authorizations? And do you have them pay for all of it or part of it up front?
We do not, and we do not. So we do not ask for a formal document. Ted is the administrator of the change orders. So we have employees, project managers that manage every single one of our projects. Each one of those project managers is only on that project or possibly 2 projects at a time. They're not running 7 homes. They're not running 7 additions. They're not running 7 basements. It's that customer is theirs. If it's drywall week, they're not gonna sit on a bucket and watch the guys finish drywall. We have to have them make money elsewhere. But Ted is very good at meeting with the customers twice a week, meeting with the project managers calling me saying, hey, I talked to Brett and he wants 6 more recessed lights in his porch or whatever the request is. Ted will relay to the customer, hey, that's probably gonna be around $1,200 for that because we have to add a switch and we have to cut drywall out or whatever. Chris will get you the final numbers, but does $1,200 sound palatable to you? And they'll be like, yep, I might get them the number and it might be 1345 or something like that. It's gonna be close. But that's how we manage that, is to try to always not have our process get in the way of progress. So we don't want to have all of this paperwork and all of this. Now, we could get burned by it and we could change our policy, but we haven't yet. So that's where, we don't have a formal situation for that, but the customer also sees on a monthly basis or bi-weekly basis that project summary form and sees the decision that was made. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, we can talk more about that later.
Anyone else on process or questions as it relates to how Tru does business?
Do you find that by using your Excel spreadsheet where you want to turn everything green, that it really eliminated the need for change orders later?
Not necessarily, but it gets the awkward conversation out of the way. If that's a best way to put it, the customer saying, oh, you know, what are we doing with this? Why haven't I heard anything about it? What's the update? I didn't see this. And then you have one document that you're working together with them as a team on, and then they're gonna make the decisions they wanna make. They're gonna understand what's valuable to them, but did they get a home equity line of credit for $150,000? Their job's $130,000. They made changes and they're at 145. Okay, now we know we have to pump the brakes. It's not 3 months later, and oh, by the way, the total investment was 165. Now we gotta bring 15 to the table to make the difference. That's not a good conversation to have with a customer. I don't like having them. That's why we do things the way.
And we're not big fans of change orders either. Like, I just don't think they're fair. We're the professionals, we should know. So what Chris can do at the very beginning with that is if we think something is in question, you know, if we have to dig a hole to find, Chris will have that conversation and almost provide an allowance for that. It may go up a little bit, it may go down, we don't know. But we're not big on it. We are big on it. We give you a number, that's our number. We don't like to nickel and dime it at the end. So we eat a lot of these things as well because Chris is able to capture them at the beginning.
Yes, no, it's very well put. And ultimately, if you ask for another electrical outlet, we're not gonna charge you $125. It costs us $125. But if you add 90 electric outlets, then yes, yeah, we have to have a conversation about something. But it's again, the forest through the trees thing of what you're gonna recognize or what you as a customer, if we were working on your project, hey, they did right by me, they delivered it on time. It was for the amount of money that I wanted, and I got some free stuff out of it too. So any time that you're gonna have breakfast with your friends or a coffee or whatever, are you going to be more likely or less likely to recommend? So that's where, again, we'll get to that a little bit later, but a referral is a pretty powerful thing. So yeah, that brings us to Keller Williams team member involvement in new home construction, just kind of the title of the lunch and learn. Wanted to get through some information before we got to it, but from that perspective of we're not Triple Crown by any stretch of the imagination, but we do like purchasing land and providing projects for a customer because it seems like that's where clients are kind of going. Where the mindset's going is I want a little bit of elbow room. I don't want to be in downtown Mechanicsburg. I don't want to be in Walden. I want to get out a little bit. Or we got the boomers who have had their house pay off for 40 years and they can sell it for double what they bought it for. Well, they've got a little bit of expendable income. They want a little rancher on 2 acres. That allows us to provide you with inventory. If there's a lead on the land, if there's an opportunity that comes up that says, hey, I've got a customer that this is perfect for. Chris, 1 story, 2,600 square foot, bare bones finishes. What's your budget looking like? Here's the piece of ground. Obviously, the site work is gonna have some component of that because we need to know, is there rock in the area? How deep's the well gonna be? Is it perked and probed? Is the driveway 400 yards long or is it 20 yards long? How long is the electric service? So from an electric company's perspective, some of them will put your electric service in your house for free, just because they're getting a new customer. Other providers charge you an upfront $4,000 or whatever it is, you give them the conduit, they'll do the transformer and the wire. We need to know what customer that is, or where the land is. And knowing where the utility company is coming from, because if we don't put that $4,000 in our estimate or my shot from the hip to you guys, then we're out that $4,000 because I made a mistake. So it only benefits us there. Investment opportunities, if there's any estate sales, divorces, anything like that in terms of, hey, I have a customer that's looking to sell. We do flips. We're not necessarily, that's not a major part of our business, but it's certainly something that if it's helpful to say, hey, this is easy button. I know these guys are gonna be in and out. And oh, by the way, maybe it takes us only 2 months to do the renovations and then maybe you get a sale out of it on the back end of things. So again, kind of try and help each other out as team members. In-depth vetting of clients is by far the most important thing. So whenever you bring a customer to us and say, I have a customer, custom home build, they want 2 acres of ground, their budget's $300,000 to $400,000. I'm just gonna say no. It's not gonna happen. You might be able to get somebody to do it, but it's not us. And that's not the wrong answer, it's just no, because we know that we can't provide that. I'm not gonna string them along and then say, okay, now it's a $650,000 project when I know full well that the budget is $300,000 or $350,000. So in-depth vetting of the client, again, just gives us the information we need to be powerful and to help you guys and to help your customers. That goes into setting and managing expectations. So that project that we're delivering for the customer in 7 months, they paid for it to go that fast. It doesn't go that fast all the time. So to say, leave here tomorrow, tell the customer we can build them a house in 6 months, we very well may be able to, but there's a cost associated with that. If you have a drywall crew that has 2 different crews, that's a big house. They need to know that they have both crews on that project in order to get it done in the time frame provided. They're not making money elsewhere. So that drywall package is more expensive than if it were to be just, hey, you have 2.5 weeks, come and go as you please. That's fine. So again, setting and managing expectations for time and for money. That helps you guys close the deal in terms of your customer and the overall situation for the project. So the most valuable resource to both of us is referrals. 90% of our business is from repeat customers or referrals. We do a little bit of advertising, the Instagram, TikTok, that type of thing. We have a billboard here or there. That's the extent of it. We don't spend any money on any advertising because word of mouth is by far the most successful we've been from not only a monetary perspective, but just from the quality of the customer that we're working with and their comfortability with us and their project because they talked to their friend or played golf with their friend and said, hey, use Tru for your project. So is there anything from our perspective in terms of what Brittany was referring to earlier of any fears of dealing with a new home construction customer? Anything I didn't go over in terms of the knowledge base or any lingering questions for
General question, do you do spec homes?
We do. And we're working on two. Off of Nursery Road in Dillsbury. We hope to have that approved and we hope June, July-ish.
If we found a good piece of land, you consider doing a spec home on it.
Absolutely. Now, we can't have 7 going on at any time. We're not landmark or charter, or, you know, there's limited resources, but to the best of our ability in terms of our business, yeah, for sure.
Christian, you want to point out the difference in the transfer tax. When one buys their own parcel, friend gets their own construction loan, and how those draws work and how the savings works relative to that.
In terms of us having the
In other
spec and then transferring it to the customer for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
transfer tax?
Yeah, because, I mean, when I used to spend a lot of time on this, I many times would show people, if the builder bought the lot, and then they build, assuming they're gonna finance, they're gonna build the financing into that, so in essence, the draw interest is built in. And you're paying transfer tax on the entire package as opposed to just the lot.
Correct.
And I'm guessing there are some people in here that maybe are not familiar with that process.
In terms of having it built into the loan?
Yeah,
Or-
building it into the loan and that the customer only pays transfer tax on the land if there is no improvement or house.
Correct, yep, and that's where we try to get to the customer in terms of saying, okay, well, if we're selling the land to you, we have a lot, we have a 2.5 acre lot, and Keith wants to buy it. You're only paying transfer tax on the value of the land. We sell it to you, but guess what? We're your builder. Too. You're not gonna go and get Landmark or, you know, whatever other company in the area. That's kind of how we like to try to, I don't wanna say get around it, but it's a very valid point in terms of
Yeah,
that.
and protecting that type of situation in the past, I've actually put deed restrictions on.
Okay,
So you can do that. Some attorneys are gonna get a little nervous about that, but it does work.
but if you're not making the attorneys and accountants nervous, are you doing your job? But no, it's a great point.
Except for our attorneys, our
Sorry,
attorneys.
clarification.
Yes.
Any other questions in terms
Keep
of
that
the
Ian.
process or just general questions for us? We can have a general discussion or not.
Are you still doing commercial construction?
We will do commercial construction for the correct customer. We do not have any interest in being brought into a scenario where we're bidding against 7 other people in a competitive situation. But if you have a customer that's like, hey, I don't want to deal with any of the big boys, I want an affordable commercial situation, then we would certainly be open to discussing it with them. But that's why we left commercial construction. It's fast, it's cheap, it's thankless. Go faster. Why aren't you done? I know, by the way, whenever you saved money and finished early, no one's saying good job. No one's saying, oh, this is the most beautiful thing you've ever built. Thank you. Already living here for 4 years. They're like, all right, what's the next thing? So yes, we will, just in the right setting. Yep.
Do you have a specific area that you were like, hey, I don't wanna go outside of this?
We like to stay within a 45-minute radius of the Mechanicsburg zip codes, the 55 and 50 zip codes. So we don't want to go to, we don't necessarily want to go to Hanover. We just Lancaster, they have their own team. There's guys down there that do it well, do it very affordably, you know, in terms of builders. So we don't really need to play in that playpen. We'll go to Palmyra. That's about as far as we'll go east. And then we won't go over the mountain into Perry County, just because again, for the same set of circumstances. There's people up there that do, you know, good work and they've been doing it for a while. And then I would say over to Newville probably would be the furthest west, so kind of draw that circle. And obviously, very selfishly, we're targeting the money. A lot of the work, and a lot of money is in that circle.
Yeah.
It also is, it makes it easier for us to manage the projects as well. If we're, 2 hours away, an hour away, I'm on every project twice a week. I put a lot of
Only
miles
one of
on the
you.
truck, so.
Yeah.
Just the project managers too, just trying to pay our suppliers and all that, so we're just trying to do the best that we can in that 45 minutes. Or we feel we can do the best project within 45 minutes.
And it's worked well, you know, obviously if it's drying up or we're not hitting our numbers, or whatever, we'll expand our region, but that's a lot of where our guys are, a lot of where, you know, Ed and I are familiar with the areas. A lot of it's also being familiar with the authority having jurisdiction in the area. We know all the guys at Tru Code, we know all the guys at Commonwealth, we know Monahan Township, Carroll Town. Once you get the relationship, those guys, you're able to move stuff through because they know you're not trying to cut corners or screw them. It's like, all right, we haven't had issues with these guys, let's push this through, let's red mark it rather than resubmit. You know, just put the comments on there and then approve their permit, rather than take 2 weeks to get the drawings revised, to get it back into the review, so a lot of that is.
Smallest size project and largest,
Largest, we don't have a cap on that, obviously, for good reason. We'll take on anything. We've built hospitals, we've built fertilizer plants, dorm buildings, churches. It's the same thing, there's just more of it. So that doesn't really, necessarily hold us back or make us afraid. From the smaller projects, we do finished basements, we'll do additions, we'll do kitchen renovations. We're not gonna do hallway bathrooms, we're not gonna do decks. You know, we're not gonna reside your house, so you can hire a siding contractor for that. I mean, I would say it's probably for the right project. Our most affordable one we've done in recent memory has been between $75,000 and $100,000, somewhere in there, I would say. So somewhere in that range.
great, thank
Now,
you.
and that's where, again, I turn away work all the time. We have people that we refer to, friends that I've grown up with, that Ed has grown up with, that do those smaller projects and are super happy doing them because it's just them and another guy, or it's them and 2 other guys. We can't compete with those numbers. So if you were to say, hey, Chris, I want my master bathroom renovation done. I'm not gonna say no and just let you hang out there to dry. I'm gonna say, hey, talk to my friend Brett. He does this, he'll take care of you, and we're being good stewards of your money because he is not gonna charge you as much as we would for the same project. Because we have 7 employees, we have trucks, we have trailers and overhead and insurance, and that all adds up.
Yeah,
Where he's only paying 1 guy, so
perfect, thank you,
that makes sense.
absolutely.
What were you asking me to elaborate
Oh, I
on?
was just gonna say, I need more of the area where you're concentrating, how many new agents are looking for
Okay.
leads.
Gotcha,
That area is a good area that for me, it's,
okay,
and some good agents.
Gotcha.
That area of the township area you're talking about.
Mhm.
and Township. and-
Carroll Township, I mean, Carroll Township, Monroe Township, Silver Spring, Middlesex, Hampton, New Cumberland, like everything kind of in that area. We like going to Hershey and Palmyra. It's a pain in the butt to get to, but there's a lot of money in Hershey and Palmyra. So when the customer calls, then we'll talk. So.
If the client has everything ready for like the survey, the foundation drawings are done, the architect is signing down, is that on?
Perfect.
Gonna have to do it 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good point to make is, so we can talk subjectively about any project, whether it's a new home or whether it's a finished basement. But to objectively talk about it and to have your customers' parameters defined to some extent, we don't have to have the whole thing designed, but to have some information. I'll go to customers for a renovation or finished basement project and I'll walk in and they'll say, well, what do you? This is your house. I don't know. I don't know if you like paint, I don't know if you like glue, I don't, yeah. So, yes, I mean, that's a very good point of as much information as we can get in the beginning gets a lot of work done and allows me to assign a number to something, because at the beginning, that's all the customer wants. I want a 16 by 16 sunroom and I want a shot from the hip from somebody. That way me and my wife can dream, we can save for 6 months, we can pay for it now, we can go through that process. And that's where it doesn't need to be litigious. It doesn't need to take a long time for that.
How do you guys handle selections on a new build? like as far as who's the customer interfacing with?
Great question.
Cabinets and
Great
high-end finishes, that kind of thing.
Yep, so we have a designer that works for us. That is her job all day, every day. Is picking the flooring, picking the paint color, picking the ceiling beams, whatever the customer was like. On that project summary form, the customer has what vendors that we're proposing for that particular widget or piece of flooring. Okay, stairs, we're getting them from Lesser Lumber because they're red oak standard stairs. What does red oak look like? You know, but a customer is gonna look at this and be like, decision paralysis by analysis. I've got so much going on. What the heck do I start with? Well, Jessica allows them to have something that's comfortable, and then she'll get samples and bring them to the customer's home. Or she'll go have coffee with your wife or your girlfriend or whatever, because I don't know about every other guy in the room. I paint the wall, I don't pick the color. Just tell me what color it is and I'll paint it. That's fine. So from your perspective, if your significant other can meet with somebody and then just handle it, just handle the selections. Let me know where the money's going. Are we going up or are we going down? Do you like this? Do you not like this? That's very, I would say, out of our hurdles or frustrations, customers not making selections is by far our biggest frustration. Because it's Parkinson's law, the work expands to take the amount of time for its completion. So there, if I say it needs to be done by Thanksgiving, on November 27th, they're still trying to make selections. So Jessica helps that situation where we kind of push everything forward because we want to define this, right? What's the bottom line? And we want to make sure that we can get stuff ordered because some of this stuff takes 6 to 8 weeks to get in. So if we are tearing your kitchen apart and you haven't made a cabinet selection, not good. Part of your home is torn apart and we're waiting on cabinets. That's what we try to avoid, is those kind of horror stories.
The schedule. It all ties together, but Jessica's basically a personal shopper for you. She'll go to the showrooms with you. She'll bring the flooring samples, the paint samples to the cabinet so that you can see the full-on interior designer that.
And what's more, she's good at it. It's not me going and putting something together. There's selections. She'll say, this is what this person's pantry looks like. And Ted and I are like, oh, are you serious? And she's like, yeah, it'll work. I promise. Once you put all this together, it'll work. And sure, shooting every time it works and everything looks beautiful. So that's another thing is, you know, if you're looking at your Instagram and you're saying, I really like this great room. This is what I want, this picture. Well, then we have to figure out what kind of wood it is and what kind of flooring it is and what the windows are. And so she's able to say, okay, I've got you. I can get you what you're picturing, because a lot of people aren't looking at drawings and can't look at drawings. But if you see a picture, I like that, that's what I want. How much does that cost? So we try to get.
And just part of that process is getting to the bottom line, but it's also the appraisal.
Right.
Because if they're getting financing, the house still has to appraise.
If they don't have money to bring to the table.
Exactly.
Right. And that's where
Or
I'll,
enough money to bring.
right, and that's where I'll kind of let them know when we're getting to critical mass, just in terms of like, hey, this is custom home. You're the one that wanted it to be 4,500 square feet with 2-story windows and gables and exposed beams and everything. The appraiser is gonna come out and say, that's a window. The good ones are gonna ask a question or two, but a lot of the appraisers are trying to check a box. So they don't care whether it's a Harvey window or whether it's an Anderson Architectural Series window that costs 4 times the amount. So yes, that's where defining that as soon as possible is key. Making sure that they know the money that's getting spent and then working with the lending institution as well.
That's where the relationship really kind of comes full circle as well, because you guys are also able to look at the comps in the area. Now, Chris and I keep a finger on that, but we're not the professionals, you know, like you guys are. So that's where we work as a team. Chris and our team can design anything, but you guys have to have a deliverable that's realistic to your customer. So again, that's where we kind of.
And we've done it, in the past where we've had issues with appraisals and, it wasn't this firm, but the realtor said, I'll get the 10-mile, 15-mile radius and figure out the comps. Now, that didn't necessarily work out because they were trying to go jumbo, they should have done conventional, but it illustrates the principle of, you know, that's where on your end of things, it's like, okay, we have appraisal issues, let's try to turn up some comps that make us look good. And then, obviously, we all know that we can only bridge so big of a gap, right? You can't say that, okay, you're raking the customer over the coals here, buddy, like, I can't make up 200 grand on my comps, but I can do 50. I can make that make sense. It could not be an issue. I've had appraisers that call me 6 or 7 times while they're underwriting. Or in underwriting with a customer, and then I'll have people that I have no idea, and then I'll have a banker call me and say, hey, we're 60 grand off. Well, they didn't ask. They didn't ask. So is that our fault? Is it the appraiser's fault? Is it the customer's fault? Is it the lending institution's fault? It's not really anybody's fault. It's just the nature of the business.
Is it more challenging because you're creating a custom product versus one of a model home cookie cutter type?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, but that's where, like, it's fundamental, our spec homes would be or would need to be fundamentally different than a custom. In terms of the material specified or what we try to do. You're getting 3 foot of stone veneer on the front, that's the only stone you're getting. You're getting double 4-inch vinyl siding around the entire thing. You're getting 8 or 200 square foot of standing seam roof, the rest is shingles. Well, what do you mean? Well, I want something fancier. Well, gee, are you bringing money to the table? Well, no. Well, you know, we can't pull a rabbit out of our hat either, so we need to make sure that we're looking at that and then make sure we understand what's important to a customer in terms of where their money is going in materials, right? Make the master bathroom nice, right? Make the kitchen somewhat nice, spend the money there. And then that helps the situation too, to try to build up what a spec is and bridge the gap between custom and a true spec home. But that's why you see with the tract home communities that are going up, that's why they're built the way they are. Is because they're selling to the masses. And normal, you know, every day, they're not coming with $150,000 in the war chest. They're saying, I can only afford this much. So.
What are your thoughts on the rule of thumb that the cost of a lot is 20 or 25% of the cost of the finished house?
I would say it depends on the lot. Give me a second here. I'll use the case study to figure out. Said 20 to 25%. I would more go along the line of dollars per acre in the location in which it's situated. Because 2 acres, 2.5 acres outside Village is gonna be far more affordable than 2.5 acres in Hampton Township. So there's a little bit of that too. It's not wrong. Your numbers aren't 100% incorrect in terms of that rule of thumb. I'm always wary of rules of thumb because there's always outside influence on that, and it can't just be carte blanche on that regard. Anything else? Jim?
Just a quick testimony of these guys, like I think you're gathering how knowledgeable and approachable they are and how comfortable they make clients. But if you have a serious and financially capable client, like don't feel like you need to figure this out on your own. Like call them early and bring them in on the process, because you see how they explain it to us. Like they help make your job easy. You have the relationship on the front end, but don't feel like you need to figure this out, like reach out to them early.
Yeah, you're the connector early on.
Go to the house rather than purchasing one.
Depending on the customer, I would ask that you vet them a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of. Not for you, you don't have to take them the whole way to the finish line, just to get a taste on what they're doing, because like I said, I talk ourselves out of work all the time. Hopefully not too much, otherwise we'll go out of business, but, we want to be a good steward of the customer's money. We always say that your money is yours to spend, not ours to spend for you. So we're not gonna talk about upgrades just for the sake of upgrades because we're charging more money. If we don't want that, then we won't have to talk about that. And then it's the same thing with the home of saying, oh, I have a customer that their budget is $600,000, but they want 2.5 acres. Well, a third of your budget just went into the land. And then another quarter of it is gonna go into the site work. Well, you don't have much money left to build a house, so probably not a good avenue to go down. But if you want a 1/2 acre lot, then we're starting to talk. Then we're talking about, okay, we robbed Peter from the land money. We put it in the site work and we put it in the house, and now we have a more feasible project.
You mentioned, that one of our ways that we could be partners is, you know, providing land leads. We talked about leads with, my gosh,
Investment opportunity.
yes, investment opportunities. What is the best way to contact you to give you those leads if we are finding them? Call.
My number's on the website, it's on Google.
And I'll make sure I send all that out too.
It rings to my cell phone whenever you try to. Number's right there.
Oh, look at
Actually,
that.
no, I misspoke. Call Ted. It's right here. Anything else? Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your day. We really appreciate it.
Make
Looking
sure-
forward to it.
Thank Tru Construction. They did buy you all lunch today. So thank you.
It really isn't a sales pitch for Tru Construction. It's a relationship. This is how we get work. And if we're not servicing you guys to service your clients, then we fail you. If we fail you, you're not gonna call us again. So there's no call that's too small. There's no call that's too big. But just call us, reach out, and we'll always pick up the phone. Chris and I cell phones are on everywhere. We're both the owners, so you're talking direct to the owners. So we'll try to not let anyone down.
Thank you so much.
We're just normal people.
Load up on more food, y'all. I'm not taking enough. Yeah, we're like.
Yeah.
Right, right. The day's not over yet.
Yo. Are you?
Everyone else like 30 times. Every time. I feel you know. Then I went to a barber shop the other day, just get up my beard.
You'll literally look like you like on TV. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
You look fresh.
That's kind of. John, now it's like.
I think I'm not.
Then I like back and, I see students. I'm trying to work with my, and then, we'll have a lot of like.
I appreciate
Yeah. And I realized that, so, so now I'm just certainly different approach for what we know. And, that, yeah, so I think that's really, really good. Yeah. That's why that we don't be able to be. Marketing, but I need. But no, having this contact and start to meet them. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm starting to. It's just like instead of them. You and the people that actually want to be part of that collaborative. Not me going out and saying, hey, you know, you want to water sell house today, like, I don't want anybody in my training. I want a specific.
You know who you have.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Get a start on this and start to really get. And then there's yeah. It's not like Hollywood.
Sounds like you already have that. Figured out.
I pick your line, that's my call sign, someone will say. Yeah. And it's you. And I. Yeah, John.
We do like.
That's because you've never been to America. Absolutely. Basketball game, and I did her name. I played with Leaving Dead, but I don't have.
You got our basement wall did already?
Well, I have.
How you doing?
Good.